Before we begin, please like and subscribe. It means a lot. Thank you.
She woke up expecting another exhausting morning. Bills unpaid, strength running low, the world already judging her before she stepped outside. But something was wrong. The smell of food filled the air. Footsteps echoed where no one should be. And standing in her kitchen was a man whose name she had only ever seen on skyscrapers and news headlines. In a world where women like her are ignored, doubted, and underestimated, this moment felt impossible. What followed wasn't just an ordinary encounter. It exposed a truth about power, race, and survival that would change her life forever. How did this happen, and why her? Before that morning, her life had followed a quiet, exhausting rhythm shaped by survival. She was a Black single mother raising her child in a city that never waited for anyone, struggling to keep up. Every day began before sunrise and ended long after exhaustion set in. She worked hard, paid what she could, and ignored the looks that judged her before knowing her story. Strength was not a choice for her, it was a requirement. Her apartment was small but orderly, a place she guarded fiercely because it was the only space where the world's assumptions couldn't reach her. She had learned to expect little from systems that promised fairness but delivered scrutiny instead. Opportunity rarely knocked, and when it did, it often came with conditions she could not afford. Power, wealth, and influence existed far outside her reality. CEOs were names on screens, faces in articles about success that felt unreachable. People like her were rarely part of those stories unless something went wrong. She had accepted that distance as permanent. What she didn't know was that her ordinary life was about to collide with a world that had never noticed her before. A moment was approaching that would blur the line between privilege and struggle, intention and impact. And when it arrived, it would force her to confront a truth about race, power, and visibility that she had spent her whole life navigating, whether she wanted to or not. The moment did not feel miraculous, it felt dangerous. Her body reacted before her thoughts could catch up, muscles tightening as instinct took over. Years of moving carefully through a world that watched her too closely had trained her for this. As the morning unfolded, the weight of imbalance became impossible to ignore. The space she had worked hard to protect no longer felt like hers alone. Every surface, every small detail of her home suddenly felt exposed. She was acutely aware of how easily a situation like this could be misunderstood, rewritten, or turned against her. Her mind raced through consequences she had never asked for: reputation, credibility, custody, survival. The margin for error felt non-existent. In a society where Black women are disproportionately scrutinized and doubted, even ordinary misunderstandings often carry extraordinary risks. What made the situation heavier was the imbalance of power standing quietly in front of her. Wealth and influence have a way of reshaping reality, of deciding whose version of events is believed and whose is erased. She knew that stories involving people like her rarely ended with grace unless someone powerful chose to intervene, and intervention, historically, was rare. As the minutes passed, her thoughts drifted to every moment she had swallowed discomfort to keep peace, every time she had stayed silent to avoid escalation. This moment felt like all of those experiences converging at once. The room seemed smaller, the air thicker, as if the walls themselves were listening. Outside, the world continued as usual, unaware that a quiet reckoning was unfolding behind a locked door. And yet something unexpected lingered beneath the fear, a sense that this encounter was not accidental, that it was building toward a turning point she could not name. Everything narrowed to a single moment where fear, power, and truth collided. The weight of the situation pressed down on her chest as the full reality became unavoidable. This was no longer just confusion or coincidence. This was exposure. Her life, her reputation, and her safety felt suddenly fragile, suspended by forces far beyond her control. Years of lived experience rushed back at once, the warnings passed down quietly through generations, the stories of moments that spiraled because the wrong person was believed. That knowledge burned in her mind as the imbalance of power reached its peak. The air felt heavy as consequences loomed. One version of events could mean protection, another could mean loss of dignity, stability, even her child. Yet within that pressure, something unexpected surfaced. Not safety, not certainty, but resolve. The quiet strength built through years of surviving unseen injustices crystallized into clarity. This was the moment where silence had always been expected, where fear had always done the work of the system. Outside, the world remained unaware, but inside that space, a reckoning unfolded. This was no longer about breakfast, coincidence, or surprise. It was about whose humanity would be recognized and whose would be questioned. The moment finally ended, but its echo remained. The room that had once felt impossible to navigate now seemed quieter, but the weight of what had transpired lingered in her chest. Relief mingled with exhaustion, yet she knew nothing would ever feel entirely the same. Her routine continued, but the rhythm was altered. Ordinary life continued outside, but inside a truth had settled. The world still measures worth differently based on race, and moments of dignity are never guaranteed. She carried both the anger of injustice and the quiet pride of having survived, having witnessed, having been seen even fleetingly by a system that rarely notices. Yet within the weight of that day, something vital endured, a reminder that stories like hers are not isolated. They reflect a larger reality, countless unseen moments where ordinary people navigate extraordinary bias. As she looked toward tomorrow, one question remained unavoidable. How many more lives are quietly burdened by prejudice before recognition becomes the norm rather than the exception? And for those who witness, who hear, who care, what will you do with this knowledge? This story did not end with applause or resolution, but it left a mark, not just on her, but on anyone willing to reflect on the truths it reveals. In the end, survival is only part of the story. Acknowledgement, awareness, and action are the chapters still waiting to be written.